Okay, guys, I want to go over the stuff we talked about the other day so far as infographic animation for motion graphics. So if we look at our files we have open here, basically going to be creating this. I'm going to go ahead and turn motion blur off. Okay, so we're going to be animating the title, doing this animation so far as the stats, and doing a little bit of a fill animation on these two characters, changing the text around a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first thing we need to do is, if you haven't done so already, and that's why it's good to label your layers. In this case, I've got a Illustrator file, so I'm going to go ahead and go through here and relabel all this stuff. If you don't do it if you're going to build these in Illustrator, if you're going to build these in Photoshop, either one, you just want to try to remember to do that, save yourself a little bit of time. Otherwise, it's not a big deal. You can always go back through in After Effects and rename them. So all you got to do is click on the layer, hit enter, and go ahead, and we're going to rename everything. Okay, now that we've got all that created, we need to, let's go ahead and pull our guy back over here so we can just hop back and forth. So we need to create this fill for each of the characters. So first thing we need to do is we need to go through here and grab the man and the lady. Control D to duplicate both those layers. And move these new layers behind the initials. And we're going to go ahead and call this M shadow and L shadow. And now I'm going to grab both of these and hit T to open up opacity. Knock both of these down to about 25%. If I have both of them selected, it'll change both of them at the same time. So that's done. The next thing I need to do is I need to create an animated mask. So originally, when I did these, we hit U to reveal our keyframes. I had it completely hidden and then revealed at 2 seconds in. And over about 15 seconds to about 2 seconds. So if we go to, or about 15 frames, 2 seconds rather. Go 2 seconds in, grab our rectangle tool right here, and we're just going to draw a box over top of him, just like that. Okay. Now we're going to need to animate this mask. So we go into the mask, into the mask properties, and we want to keyframe the mask path. Now I'm going to go from 2 seconds back to 15 frames, 14 frames, either one. And then I'm going to grab my selection tool. And with the mask selected, I'm going to get that little box right by the arrow. I'm going to box select its top 2 points and just hold down my arrow key. Take this all the way down. Okay, so now I've got the reveal. And actually, I think if I jump to K, to my next keyframe, he was about 76%, I think, on the other one. So I'm actually going to take this down a little bit more. So we'll go down to more like that. Okay. Just like that. So I can basically take this mask animation. If I select the mask, Control C to copy. Go down to the lady, and I'm going to paste it on her. And now we'll work on hers. So if I hit U to reveal my keyframes, move up. So my mask needs to be a little bit wider because her arms are out a little bit wider. So I'm going to make sure I select the mask, grab the points here, arrow key to the left, grab the points here, arrow key to the right. Same thing. Move this over. And here. Move that over. So it comes a little narrower, but it's not a big deal. We're just worried about the reveal more than anything. There's a higher percentage for hers. So I'm going to grab both of these and move that up to about there. So now I've got this. Okay. So before anything else comes on, all the rest of the stuff is going to kind of fly up. I could do a little bit of extra animation just to get these guys on screen. So I think we'll just do something basic like a fade. So my man layer and my lady layer are done. Another good kind of workflow tip is as you're finishing your animation on these layers to go through and change this color coding, this label coding. So I'm going to change these guys to green because I know I'm done with them. And now I'm going to take this shadow, and I'm going to hit T for opacity. At 14 frames in, I know I want them to be visible because that's when the reveal is going to happen. So I'm going to hit keyframe and move back here. Take these from 25 to 0. So that now, I've got that going on. Now, just like with a lot of our other keyframes, we can do the trick where we go grab the keys, hit F9 to easy ease, or right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. You want to kind of get in the habit of doing this every time. Grab both of these guys, graph editor, grab the back one, pull the handle in, same thing. Both of these guys, graph editor, pull the handle in. And then we could even do that for these two as well, for our mask keys. Right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. Oh, we got a double one here. I've done that one twice. So let's get rid of that. Oh, I know what that was. That's where we corrected the mask. And same thing, easy ease. Go to the graph editor. Second one, pull it in. Grab both, graph editor. Grab the second one, move it in. Okay. So now, let's back all this out and see what we got. Just like that. Good enough. Okay. So those layers are now done. So now let's animate these bars to come in. So if we look and see where our bars came in, we had them from about 7 to 12. Those guys animated. I just had them animate straight up. Okay. So if we go, let's go ahead and make these two guys green so we know they're done. Go to the bar, go to 7 frames in. Actually, let's go to 12 because we're going to set the final state. Man bar and lady bar, and we're going to go scale. And I'm going to key both of those. Now, If I jump 5 frames back here, and I'm going to be adjusting the scale, and I want this to grow up, essentially. I want it to grow up from this bottom point. As it stands, because I've got my anchor point set in the middle, if I go ahead and change this, it's going to grow out from the middle instead of growing up from the bottom, all based on where that anchor point is located. And also, when we're dealing with scale, I'm only going to be dealing with scale in one property. So we want to unlock this chain so that we don't affect this property as well. You don't want to, we're just affecting the Y. We don't want to affect the X property. So I'm going to uncheck this guy. And I'm going to take this down to 0. Like I said, the issue there is it's growing out from the center. It's not growing out from the bottom. So the way we fix that is we can go up here and grab our pan behind tool and take this guy, take him straight down, kind of lay him over that center handle, just like that. So now it's going to grow up straight from the bottom, just like we wanted. So now we'll just jump over here and do the same thing to this bar, grabbing, dragging, and drop that guy right there. And now we're going to unhook the chain, take the Y value down to 0, and now it grows up from the bottom. Same thing as always. Go ahead and go back to selection tool, grab both of these guys, keyframe assistant, easy ease. Same thing here. Easy ease. Jump into graph editor, grab the second handle, pull it in. Just like that. Grab these keys. Just like that. So now, we have that. Okay. So the next thing we need to do, we're going to go ahead and take these guys, wrinkle them up, and we know that they're done. So let's turn them to green as well. So we want to go ahead and get our title in here. So an original one, if we go to our title, we did that same thing we did when we did our motion graphics on the title reveals. We had the 2 titles passing each other, and then we made 2 masks to hide them. So we had these guys coming in from the same 5 to 12. So let's go ahead and get that set up. So title 1, title 2, position, and at 12 frames in, we know that they need to be in their final position. So I'm going to key both of these guys, go to frame 5. Now I'm going to take the top title, move it down here, and take bottom title, move it up here, just like that, so that they cross. And now I'm going to, well, let's go ahead and do our easy ease on these so we don't forget about it. Just like that. And like that. Okay. So we've got that part. So now we need to make our mask. Now, there's a couple different ways we can do it. We can either use a solid or we can use a shape layer. So in this case, I'm going to use a shape layer. So to deselect everything, hold down Control-Shift-A. That deselects all my layers. I'm going to go ahead, grab the rectangle tool, and I'm going to make a mask. So first mask, It's going to go right here. And this is going to be for my bottom layer. So I'm going to move this guy right here. And then my second mask, I can go ahead and just Control D duplicate him. Bring him up here and go to position, move him down. Just like that. Okay. And let's go ahead, hit enter, call this mask, and this mask. Okay. So now I've got all this set up. Essentially, all I need to do is set the track mat to alpha mat mask. And same here. So that now, I'll actually change these to inverted. My bad. Alpha inverted. Okay. So now, got my title. Okay. Now we need to get this title bar in. So we'll go ahead, grab the guys we know are done, turn them green, fold them up. So title bar, we want it to kind of grow out from the center. So easy enough. I think that one goes from 0 frames to 5 frames. So we'll just go scale, key the scale, roll it back to the beginning, unlink our chain, and we're going to be animating in on the X property. So we're just going to take this guy to 0. And you guessed it, keyframe assistant, easy ease. Grab second handle, drag it in. Back out of the graph editor. So now, getting pretty close. So all we have left at this point is our our text layers, and our little animated numbers. So we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and get our animated numbers knocked out. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get our numbers in here. And I used Tahoma Bold for these guys. And about 150. Okay. So I wanted it right here. I think the guy was like 73. Move him. Kind of get this centered as best we can. About there. Bump him up just a little bit. Arrow keys, that sits about right. Now I want this font to actually be the same color as the guy. So I can go in here, grab my color picker, make him red. Okay. Now next I want to go ahead and do second number. P for position, just roll it over here. And kind of square it off with this Y. Looks about right. And then hers was like 86 or something like that. Okay. I'm going to match the color. And we're good there. Okay, so next thing I want to do is I want to go over here to my effects and presets and drop in a slider control on both numbers. Okay, now that I got this in here, slider is basically what's going to control this number animation. So it's going to follow the same path as our reveal right here on our icons. So from 15 to 2 seconds. So go ahead, go to frame 15, I'm going to go ahead and grab both of these guys and open them up. Don't need the transforms. I just need this text open right here so I can see where it says source text. So what we're going to do is we're going to reference this slider to our source text with an expression. So I'm going to go ahead, hold down Alt, and click the stopwatch. And then I'm going to use this pick whip to select slider control. And same thing over here. I'm going to Alt, click this stopwatch, grab the pick whip, and reference this slider control. So that now, 15 frames, if I key this slider, I'm going to go to another layer and key that slider, go to 2 seconds, 2 semicolon 00. And now I'm going to make this one 86. And this one 73. It will now animate in. But we got a problem. Look at all these extra digits over here. So there is a way to fix this, and we're going to have to add just a little bit to our expression. So if we go in here to where the expression is, click inside of here, we need to add just a little bit extra, some extra text in here to define it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type math, capital M, dot round, and open parenthesis, all the way to the back, and close parenthesis, just like that. So same thing down here. Capital M math dot round, open parenthesis, and close parenthesis. So now we don't get all those extra digits. And all that's doing is just rounding it up to the 2 significant figures. So hit U, and then I can jump over here to the end. Okay, I need to add my percent values in here. So Control Shift A to deselect. Grab my text tool, and I'm going to click right around here and type percent. Let's see, get this guy right over here. Probably make it just a little bit smaller than the text. And kind of center it up about there. Same thing over here. So I'm just going to, where did my percent? Take my percent down here by the 86. Control D, duplicate. Pop open the position. And run this guy over to here. And we'll change the color. Grab all these guys, close them up, so that now we've got that. Just like that. Okay. Last things, we can close off these layers, grab our 2 counters, hit U to reveal the keyframes, and you guessed it, easy ease. Same thing here. Go into the graph editor, grab the second point, drag it in, back out, same thing here. Okay. So now we're here. Okay. Almost done. Grab all these guys, turn them green, we know we're done. So the last thing we got to deal with is this text. Now, if you're designing stuff in Photoshop and Illustrator, and you're going to have text elements in there, It's probably for the best if you go ahead and rebuild that text in After Effects, just because it'll animate a little bit better. You will be able to necessarily change it. I think sometimes you can with Photoshop, but not with Illustrator. So let's go ahead and change that text. Like I said, because I'm lazy and I don't feel like typing, I'm just going to copy this text, Control C. And then I'm going to create a new text layer, paste it, and I can move this guy. He's pretty well in alignment. And duplicate that one. Position. Take it over to here. Turn this one off. Turn this female. Whoops. Okay. So last thing, we're going to want to hide this text inside there. So behind this bar as it comes up. So click on this one. We did this guy. From 10 frames to 15 frames. Okay. So I'll take both of these, go to 15 frames, P for position, lock them there. And this time we're going to use, let me turn off that man text, where are we at? This time we're going to use a mask to hide these guys on that layer. So the only issue with using a mask on a moving layer is that sometimes it will, it moves with the layer. So essentially you have to animate it twice, whereas if you use a shape layer or solid, you do not have to readjust it. But I just want to show you guys how that works so you know. Okay. So we've got our mask. I'll be masking this layer out. This time I'm going to use additive mask. So I know I want it here. And I'm going to key the mask path, going to make it an add mask instead of a subtract mask this time. So I'm going to key that. Go to 10 frames. I'm going to move the position back. Now I'm actually going to use, whoops, I'm going to move the mask itself. So I'm going to grab all four and just use the arrow keys and move this guy over. As you can see, a little bit more time consuming. So now, just like that, got our mask. Okay, same thing over here. To make our mask, just like that. Keep the path. Move over to here. Change the position. Now I'm going to move my mask. This time I'll just drag him. Oops. No. Like that. There he is. Okay. Last thing. You know what we're going to do? Grab these. Right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease or F9. Easy ease. Back to the graph editor. Grab the second point. Pull it in. Back out of the graph editor. Same thing here. Second point. Pull it in. Control A, select everything. Close it off. Let's see what we got. Get out of the graph editor. Okay. Let's kind of set that. And you can always move your preview time in if you need to. And remember, you got to expand this back out if you're going to be doing more in your animation. But if you just want to kind of check your stuff and see where you're at, you can just hit N and pull that in. So it looks pretty good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is how we can kind of automate our animation or animate ends. So I've got this Illustrator file that I've got in here, this house with a whole lot of layers. And I'm going to animate all of this onto the screen without doing, maybe adding 2-3 keyframes. And so basically how this works, turn off motion blur here, is I've got this control layer. And this control layer is set up with just a few keyframes. And essentially, I'm putting an expression on the scale and rotation of all these layers and driving all that animation based off this control layer. So let's go ahead and set it up. Okay, so what we want to do when you build your graphic, if you're going to be infographic, if you're going to be doing this in Illustrator or Photoshop, you want to build it with the layers as they are set to appear. You want to list them sequentially. So once you get all that set up, and this is where it's a really good idea to definitely label things, especially when you get into a whole lot of layers like this, is we want to go ahead and to kind of clean this clutter up. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control A and select all these layers. And I'm going to click on this shy button right here, the little guy peeking over the wall. And then I'm going to go ahead and shy all these layers so I can see I've got some room down here to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new adjustment layer. Enter. I'm going to call this guy Controls. Change the color just so it shows out a little better. And to orange. Okay. So now I'm going to go over here to my effects and presets and pull up effect controls for my controls layer. I'm going to scroll down here to expression controls, and I'm going to throw a slider, another slider, and an angle control. I'm going to rename these. Name this first one delay amount. The second one scale, and the third one rotation. Okay, I'm going to open this up, twirl these guys down so I can see stopwatches on all three of them. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to unshy all my layers. I'm going to get started working on my expression. So I'm going to pull up scale. And I'm going to go over and pull up this expression. So this is going to be the expression that I put on my scale. And basically everything in here is set up for you. Essentially, we're just defining some variables here, defining the delay of the animation that's going to happen. We're setting up this delay times index, essentially what this is. This takes the delay, multiplies it by every layer. Then we're establishing a time minus delay, and then we're linking all of this back to the slider and generating a value. And since scale has two values, right here, scale on x and y, and scale on x and scale on y, it's going to generate two values. So I'm going to copy this, go in here, hold down Alt, and click the stopwatch. Give myself some more room right here. Control V to paste. Now, the only two things I'm going to need to change on this is I'm going to need to reference these sliders. So first thing, I'm going to block and copy this pick whip amount slider. Make sure not to get that semicolon at the end. Now I'll take this pick whip right here and put it on this delay amount slider. Okay, now go back in here, and where it says pick whip scale slider, I'm going to grab this guy too. Make sure you don't get the dot value at time part. So pick whip the scale slider. So now can't see anything's happening because it's just affecting this first layer. So we're going to go ahead now and go to our R, pull up our rotation, Alt-click on this guy, give ourselves some room to work with. Actually, let's move this up for the time being. Room to work with. We're going to go back to our animate in. I'm going to copy this expression. Same kind of thing, setting up the same kind of delay, only this time we're dealing with rotation, so it's only generating one value. So copy that, paste it, and then I'm going to change out the two parts where it says pick whip. This to the delay amount, and this one to the rotation angle. Click off. So now, this is essentially, we'll go ahead and change this delay amount to, I don't know, 1 for the time being. So really slowly, this is going to animate in. But I need to get this expression on all these layers. So the way that I do that, S, hold down Shift, hit R. I want to select both of these layers. And you could take this and you could copy this expression over and over and over again on all these layers. But the point of this is all about automation and making things easier, so that's not what we want to do. Basically, we want to select the two layers that have the expressions on them. I'm going to go up here to Edit, Copy Expression Only. Click that. Go down here, select all our other layers. Select them all. Control V. Now, I just pasted that expression on all those layers. So, let's go ahead and shy those guys again. And now we'll go in here and set up our animation. So I'm going to come out to about 1 second. And I'm going to set my scale at 100. I'm going to set key for my angle. Key both of those two guys. Roll them back. Take my scale down to 0. My angle to say 145. And now, let's see what we got. Spacebar. Very slowly animating in because this delay slider is delaying every layer coming in by 1 second. So I want to kind of pick that up a little bit. We'll take that down to like 0.2. So you can see this all working a little bit faster. So getting there, there's a couple things we need to kind of shift up. So obviously delay slider needs to be faster. Really probably where you should stick with this is anything 0.05, something like that, relatively fast. You want all this to animate in and get on the stage pretty quickly. Might even take that a little lower, 0.04. Okay. Now, actually, I want the background to come on first and all this to build onto the background. So in that case, because we have the index active, all we really have to do is grab this background layer and pump him up, drop him here, and now he's going to drop on first. But we have an issue. Because the way this is all set up, it's sitting on top. So the way around that is if we grab all these layers, we make them 3D layers. Now we take this background layer, pull up his position. Let's just set him back 1.5. Now, got all that, but I'd like to have the frames come in before the wood. Same kind of thing. All I have to do is take these frames, move them up, they'll come in first, but I want the wood in front. So there again, grab my position. Take all these guys. I'm going to set them to not -1, but 1. Okay, now everything builds the way I want to. Let's do one last thing in here. Let's come in about here. And what if we did kind of like the bounce and we added a little bit of a punch to the scale here? So it comes in a little big and then it settles down. So we'll crank this up to 125. Now we'll have a look at this. A little bit more visually interesting. So lastly, we can go in here, grab everything, right click, keyframe assistant. You guessed it, easy ease. So now, if we want to, we can go in here and do our same old, grab handles, slide them over, get a little bit more interesting animation out of things. And do the same with these guys here. Okay, so there is our quick and easy animated infographic with just a few keyframes, a little bit of position adjustment, and some expressions. So now let's take that and apply it a couple of different ways. So the good thing about setting things up like we did here is we can duplicate this over multiple times onto different comps and use essentially just paste those expressions in. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy the control layer, bring it into my pie chart, paste it. Now I'm not going to be affecting the title boxes, or this necessary pie chart, these bottom boxes. Really all I'm going to be worried about is pie chart. So I do have something. I'm going to drop this guy down. And I'm going to go ahead and take these guys and hide them for the time being. Go ahead and make them shy and get them out of my way. So I'm just looking at this stuff. So one thing that you're going to run into that's going to make things a little awkward with something like this pie chart center is fine. We start looking at these other pieces. Their anchor points, that's this guy right here, this little target, are all set up in different parts. The ellipses are fine. They're all set up in the center of the comp, but these other guys, when you import composition, retain layer size, or import as a composition, like, let's just show you. So on importing this, normally you always do composition retained layer sizes. When you just import it like this, it's going to put the anchor point at the center of each layer. So with circles, things are already set up at the middle, that's fine. But when you get to pieces like this pie chart, it makes it a little trickier because that's where it's going to set up your anchor point in the middle of that layer, which sometimes if it's a piece on a pie chart, it's all over the place. We really want those in the center. So in that case, we would bring things in as a composition instead of that. Well, the issue with that is, we'll go ahead and do the composition so you can get a ballpark idea what we're talking about. So we're basically re-importing this guy one more time. Is when I'm looking at my title boxes, things like that, it's going to stick the anchor point right in the center of the comp. So you got a couple different choices. You can go in here and we can just correct these and slide your anchor point to the center. Grab this here, our anchor point, oops. Grab our anchor point. And we hold down Control. It'll kind of snap it along the lines of things. We can get it close. You can either manually do it like this, or we could just go in here and if we use the one that has everything centered when we import it as just a composition, I could take all these pie chart pieces and copy them, paste them in here. Whichever way you choose, doesn't matter, just as long as you can keep yourself straight that way. If you choose to do something like this, easiest way to me would be to just turn on the title action safe or just line it up. Like in this case, we have this little center piece right here. So it's pretty easy for us to set where our anchor points are. So like this. In this case, I'm just going to manually move these because I don't really have that many. So this isn't really going to take me that long to kind of set this up. And I'm just having, got the pan behind tool selected. And I'm going grabbing that little target and moving that guy relative to the center of this graph. And the last one. So it doesn't take too long. If you have a whole lot of pieces, obviously it would, but in this case, we're in good shape. So like I said, I'm just going in here and really quickly setting this guy up. If I had a bunch of layers, yeah, I would probably do this where I bring in the second copy with just composition and not composition, retain layer sizes, and then just copy paste over. In our case, it's not too tricky. So anyways, we've got all this stuff set up. Now we just need to animate them on. So we've already got our controls. We don't really need to do anything here. What we do need to do is jump back into our house, go scale, Shift R for rotation. I want to select both these guys, edit, copy expression only, back into here, select all these guys, and paste. Now, got our pie chart. A couple things I want to change. Instead of the pieces coming up first, obviously in the order I want the ellipses to. So I'm going to grab these ellipses, bring them up to the top, pull up position, make these, actually let's make all these guys 3D layers. Grab these three, position. This is front to back, so I'm going to actually invert these so that it goes ellipse, background ellipse 2. I'm going to change this to 5, 4, 3. So now it goes like this. And there's a pie chart. So then the only thing we have left to do is once this kind of animates on, it's basically to go in here and animate our title and our title boxes. all I really did here was just did a basic scale. So 0 to 100, 110 to 115. So I can unshy those layers, scale, go to 110, key them all, +5 to go up 5 frames, key everything again, J to jump back, 0 those guys out. Same as always, right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. And then do our usual, go in here, grab the handles, go in a little tighter, it's hard to see. Pull all this over, turn these off. Got that one set up, and then I just do that same 0 to 100 down here for these 3 layers. Actually, let's move that down just a little bit. Yeah. But probably somewhere around here. Control V to paste. Whoops. All right, that's fine. We can just redo that really fast. Scale, key it, +5. Key it again, J to jump back. Take these guys to 0. Grab all 3. Keyframe assistant, easy ease. Speed graph, go in a little tighter. Grab the second one, drag that over. Oops. Turn the speed graph off. Zoom out. There we go. So for our last one, we got something just a little bit different. So essentially what we're doing with this one, we're just growing in these people and this bar graph. Well, the issue with that is I don't want to, if I go to the actual base for this, you can see tons and tons and tons and tons of layers. So I'm actually going to take my controls and do my automatic animation, and I'm going to create that in a pre-comp to make this a little bit easier to make out. So go in here, and just like last time, copy my controls. Where were we? Oh, over here. Let's bring this guy over to the end. So I'm going to put that right here. And I'm going to come down to where I've got bar lines right under crucial data. And I'm going to paste it again because I'm going to constrain these into pre-comps just to make this a little easier to deal with. So I'm going to grab my control layer all the way down to my last man and woman copy right here. I'm going to go to layer and pre-compose. I'm going to call this animated people. Move all attributes in the new composition. Hit OK. Same thing right here. I'm going to take this controls all the way down to the last bar data line. I'm going to go layer, pre-compose, and this is going to be animated graph. Okay, whole lot simpler in here. So now I can just dive into this animated people, pull up my controls. This time, if we look back here, we aren't affecting rotation, we're just doing scale. So that's really all I want with this guy. So I can go back to our previous animation. I can go to this layer, hit S for scale, edit, copy expression only, back to the animated people, all the way to the bottom, select everything, and paste, and watch. Just like that. Maybe I don't like that little bump that kind of happens when they super grow in. I take that guy out. I just want it to be simple, animate on, like that. There we go, all done. Back into this one. I've got my people animating on just like that, already finished. Now I go into my animated graph, same deal. I just want it to affect scale. So select all these guys, paste. Oops, let's do that one again. Let's go back to our animated people, S, edit, copy expression only, back into the graph, paste it. Let's back up here. All right, now let's try that again. Take our scale, edit, copy expression only, back to animated graph, paste. Really? That's interesting. Okay. We'll undo that. Maybe it's because it's a controls too. So we'll take that off. And we'll just go ahead and redo this one really fast if it wants to be squirrely with us. Still not too tricky. I can go back to my animate in, grab my scale, copy, back in here, my scale, alt click, drag this down, paste, pick with my sliders, move up, that one, same thing here, to my scale. Now it works. So I can take this, edit, copy expression only, and Control V to paste. And that's animated. All done. So you can see the power of this really saving you a whole lot of time so far as these infographics go. So now I've got them animating in, and all we really need to do to get this guy, like the other one, offset the layers just a little bit, add the same kind of scale, grow out just like we did in the last one. That's all there is to it. So if you guys have any questions about this one, let me know. And if you want to dive a little bit more into infographics next time, I think what we may do for the final project is kind of see where everybody's at and determine what the more advanced tutorials we're going to go through before the project's over. So thanks for hanging in there.